All right, welcome back. Here we are with the next month's session, and this month is going to be super special and also really concise and very focused session, because today in this session we are talking about the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership that is applied for senior leaders. So this is a great book by John Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And in this session, today's session, let's go over the 7 most important laws that are applicable to the senior leaders and how to use this. If you are really keen, go ahead and buy the book and read it. In this session, we will focus on the 7 most important laws as well. But first, let me ask you a question that most leaders never consider. Are you leading by design or by default? Because here's the truth: the 21 laws of leadership are always at work. You don't get to opt out of them. You either apply them and grow or ignore them and pay. That's how important it is. And when you violate a leadership law, you may not see the damage right away, but your team, your culture and your outcomes will see the difference in the long run. So this session isn't about learning something new for the sake of it. It's about realigning your leadership with principles that don't bend to trends, pressure or personality. Because titles don't make leaders. Vision alone makes leaders, and living these laws is what makes leaders more effective. So today we are not just going to talk about leadership, we are going to audit it, apply it and elevate it together. All right, so let's get into it. Let's begin with the agenda. And today we'll learn 3 big ideas, like in 7 most powerful leadership laws. That will be something that we learn today. Second thing is how to apply them at a senior level. And the third point is how to identify and close your leadership gap using some of these rules today. All right, whip out your notes if you not have already. So let's begin. It's important. Why is this important? Let me start by quoting John Maxwell. He said, "Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership." 50% of all leadership failure comes from lack of awareness, not lack of knowledge. That is why it is so important today to learn about these laws, because with these laws, with the practical application of these laws, you can be at least 50% sure of success. Okay, and this leads us to what we call as the leadership OS, leadership operating system, which I would say it's all about principles or bigger than preferences. Number 1, principles. Many people have preferences, but when it comes to leadership and when it comes to effective leadership, your principles of leadership takes precedence over your preferences. Similarly, the structure of how you lead takes precedence over your style. There are different kinds of styles of leadership. Every person has a personality, every leader has a personality, but the structure of leadership, if you want to be effective, the structure of how you lead will always precede your style of leadership. And also the third big point is growth always takes precedence over genius. It's not necessary that a leader has to be a genius with very high IQ. Even if it is, growth always matters than IQ or genius for a leader. So that's with this big idea. Let's get into the actual laws. I have selected 7 laws, irrefutable laws of leadership from 21. Let's get started. The first law is it says leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. It's called the law of the lid. So here's the blind spot. When it's not visible, like most leaders assume their company's potential is limited by market conditions, when it's often limited by their own leadership ceiling. This hurts for many leaders actually. They don't want to acknowledge this, but most often this is the case. It's not the company's potential is not limited to or limited by the market conditions or the economic conditions or any other conditions. It is limited by the leader's own ceiling. Maybe their potential, maybe their knowledge, maybe their willingness or unwillingness. It could be anything. So there is a ceiling of the leader of the organization. That's the ceiling of the entire organization. So now how to apply this rule at senior levels? Number one, you need to understand that your business will never outgrow your ability to lead it. Your business will never outgrow your ability to lead it, which means you need to continually grow yourself if you want your business to grow with you as well, right? Or it cannot be the other way around as well. Maybe if you are thinking, okay, I have now grown my business so far, in future the business will grow on its own and I will grow, help me grow, the business will help me grow. It's not going to happen that way. Second thing is, if your lid is low, which means the level is low, your team's performance, innovation and growth obviously will also remain capped at that level. That's why you need to, that's what the law says. It is a law. Why? The reason this is a law is because it is observed. This is from observation that the author has written. All right, and a lot of case studies have gone into figuring this out. And the third big idea is, your number one job is to raise your own lid. How do you do that? Through mentorship, or sometimes through delegation and strategic visioning, different ways, but you need to continuously raise your own lid. That's what the law means. So here's a question that you must ask yourself. Where is my leadership bottleneck? Or where in my leadership culture or style am I the bottleneck? Think about it. And what would improve if I stepped aside or empowered someone else? Maybe there are some bottlenecks. That is the reason, that is caused by your own lid. If you want to raise that lid, you need to remove this bottleneck. Maybe you are the bottleneck. Figure out who else can help you. If you step aside, what would happen? So that's how you apply the law of the lid in your business. Now the next one, the law of influence says that the principle says the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing else, nothing more, nothing less, right? So it's all about influence. So high achievers in leadership roles often lean too heavily on position and maybe performance or charisma sometimes, but long-term influence is built through consistency, integrity and trust. Consistency, integrity and trust. So how do you apply this law of influence at the senior level? Number one, influence cannot be forced, it must be earned. Got that? Influence. It cannot happen overnight, and it cannot. You cannot buy influence. You cannot make it happen overnight. It's a long-term strategy. It must be earned or a long term. So every day you're earning influence, either positive or negative. And the second big idea is, senior leaders must shift from managing down to influencing across and above. I mean, across and above their peers and across and above their board or even industry. So they must shift that. I am managing this into influencing. Managing, the shift should happen from managing to influencing. And the third big idea is building influence through storytelling and like shared vision, for example, and also visible action, visible values in action. You know, if you want to influence by making yourself the most the person of highest integrity in your team, you want your team to follow you, you role model, you become the person of highest integrity, and your team members will also follow you because you are role modeling for them and they are following you. All right, so here are two questions you need to ask about this. Number one, am I leading with influence or relying on authority? Right, and the second question is, where do I need to invest more in trust building? What do I need to do? Where do I need to invest more in trust building? Right, let's go to the next one, the law of the process. Sorry about the law, it's still the previous law is mentioned. Let me read it out to you. Leadership, the principle says, leadership develops daily, not in a day. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. All right. So now the blind spot could be experienced leaders often assume growth is something they used to do, not anymore. But leadership plateaus when personal growth stops. No? That is why leaders are learners. Leaders have to develop every day. Personal development is part of leadership. It's not like I got a degree from an MBA school and I'm done, I am a leader. No, it doesn't happen. Every day you need to continue to develop. All right, you need to continue to stay ahead. That's what leading means, right? So how do you apply this law, the law of the process, which says leadership develops daily, not in a day? There are how do you apply? Number one is growth should still be scheduled, not left to chance. I mean, what are your plans for personal development or growth this year? It has to be on your calendar. You need to have them scheduled so that it's not left to chance. It is a given. It is already planned. What kind of coaching you will take? Are you going to write a book? What kind of personal development, or what other kinds of personal development, maybe a seminar or maybe a summit, maybe a conference, whatever it is for you, it has to be scheduled, it has to be on your calendar, and you need to make time for it, even if your business cannot afford to not have you in office or on work for even a single minute, because leadership develops daily, not in a day. And the second big idea or application at senior level is you must share your growth process with your team so that it normalizes learning at the top. When your team knows that as a leader you are focusing on personal development, they too follow you because you are the leader, you are the role model, right? So you need to share the progress. What happened, what did you do, and how you are growing, so that they all feel proud about your growth and their growth that follows as well. Third big idea, build growth systems, which means you need to have a system in your organization which probably could be something like a reading rhythms, or reverse mentorship, or even advisory circles, small groups. So that kind of systems, they promote daily growth and daily development, and over a period of time you will be surprised at how much growth your team has achieved along with you, right? So now time to ask yourself, what am I doing daily, weekly and monthly to improve as a leader? That's one question you need to answer. Write it down. And also a follow-up question would be, and who is keeping me accountable for it? Who is keeping me accountable for it? Maybe you have a partner or a buddy, or you are your own accountability partner. Maybe you put everything on a calendar. So that's how it works. Now, the law of navigation, what does it say? Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. So here's the blind spot. Visionary leaders often confuse motion for direction or being busy with progress. So without a clearly communicated roadmap, the team drifts and you don't know where it can land. So how do you apply this at senior levels? You must see more than your team sees and see it before they do. That's what being a visionary is all about, isn't it? And also, you need to turn that vision that you see in advance before anybody else into a strategy, and strategy into systems. That's your job as a leader, and that's about the law of navigation as well. And in this process, you use navigation moments. That's how you apply this law of navigation, which means you use this principle maybe during meetings, during crisis, or quarterly planning sessions, so that it aligns everyone around the course, because it's very important. Because you are the captain of the ship, you need to chart your course, and you cannot let your team just drift along in unknown waters, because you're the leader. And it's time to ask yourself a question like, does my team know where we are going, and why it matters, and how are we going to get there? You need to know, and your team needs to know all these three answers. Next one, the law of addition, which says leaders add value by serving others. Leaders add value by serving others. It's one of the elements, I would say, of servant leadership. So the blind spot is top leaders sometimes drift into outcomes focused leadership, and in this process, in this outcome based approach, they forget that people are the drivers of performance. So how do you apply this law at senior leadership levels? Number one, shift your mindset. Every interaction is a chance to add value, not extract results, right? And you can also think about developing people, which takes precedence than managing people. Develop people is more important than managing people. And you also need to ask, where can I remove friction, if any, and build confidence or open doors? So that way you're adding more value by serving others. And in order to make this effective and use this law effectively, you need to ask yourself, who in my organization would say they have become better just by working with me? If you can identify more the number of people on your team who can say yes to this, then you are using the law of addition. If not, then you must start using the law of addition as well. Now, the next one, the law of the inner circle, says a leader's potential is determined by those closest to them. A leader's potential is determined by, it's the law of proximity as well, the law of inner circle. So leaders often hold on to sometimes underperforming or unchallenging advisors out of loyalty or sometimes out of comfort. So how do you deal with this? You audit your inner circle quarterly at least, and find out whether they are proactive, strategic, and also growth focused. Are they your closest leadership team? Are they proactive? Are they strategic and growth focused? Yes, move ahead. Next checkpoint is surround yourself with people who challenge you and expand your thinking. Challenge you and expand your thinking. And the third big idea is protect your decision making ecosystem. I mean, it's your most valuable asset. So that is how your potential can increase, or it's, in other words, it is dependent on the people closest to you. So by empowering these people who are closest to you, you are empowering yourself. So now the question to ask yourself is, do the people closest to me multiply or drain my leadership energy and clarity? Big question, needs time to answer. Write it down and go over it later in more detail, I would suggest. Next one, the law of legacy. A leader's lasting value is measured by succession. The law of legacy says a leader's lasting value is measured by succession, which means, many senior leaders focus on milestones. They're focusing on everyday activities, which is important. Milestones are important, but they are not focusing on legacy, which means they are not thinking far ahead. But your strongest and greatest success is what continues after you are gone, isn't it? So how do you apply this at senior leadership levels? Number one, start building your leadership bench now if you have not already. You should know who is going to succeed you. And the second thing is, document your philosophies. Write it down, your decision patterns and your values and your beliefs. You need to document everything, and maybe even publish a book. And that's what we do at Stardom Books. Many of our leadership authors are doing just this. They are documenting their journey. Along with that, they are documenting their beliefs, their values, what mistakes they did, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and they are mentoring their successors, and not as replacements but as successors. You need to start mentoring your top leadership team. So you need to ask yourself, if I exited tomorrow, what would live on because of me and what would fall apart? So if you have clarity on these two questions, you are already on the way to use the law of legacy. Now let's look at a quick case study to give you a quick context to understand this. Here's a little backstory I would like to share. An experienced founder of a growing B2B services firm had built a high performing team, but the growth stalled at a certain revenue level for it stayed there for 3 consecutive years at the same level. Despite pushing harder and hiring more people, more talent, and working longer hours, nothing seemed to scale. So the problem was, he was unknowingly violating the law of the lid. You remember, he was involved in every major decision. His leadership team wasn't fully or truly empowered to show up at their best self, and he had no structured process for developing leaders under him, beneath him. So now what changed? After working with an executive coach and rereading Maxwell's laws, of course, he made these 3 shifts. Number one, applied the law of the inner circle, which means he started rebuilding his leadership team with people who could own, not just execute. And 2, practiced the law of process, which means he committed to a monthly growth session with his top team. And 3, lived the law of legacy, which means he began mentoring 2 internal leaders to carry the company's culture and growth outlook forward into the future. So now what's the result? Within the next 12 months, he moved from being in 80% of decisions to 30%. So the remaining decisions were handled by his other leadership team that he was mentoring. And as a result, revenue grew by 40% with higher margins. And 2 of his team members were leading new verticals independently. They are on their own, they can take care. So now the lesson is, when he stopped being the lid, the business broke through it. So that was the law of the lid in action, from bottleneck to breakthrough. And now let's also look at some do's and don'ts. do apply one law at a time, like focus on leads or focus leads to impact. Start where the gap is greatest and start applying one law at a time. And also visit these laws quarterly, because these principles deepen over time and with experience. And of course, use these laws to mentor your leadership team, because that can multiply your impact by turning your mentees into it, or these conversations into team conversations. Your personal conversations will become team conversations. Now, don'ts are corollary to these big ideas as well. Don't try to master all 21 at once, because trying to adopt everything quickly leads to shallow implementation, and not going deep enough can result in not getting any results at all. And don't try to assume like one time learning is enough. Leadership is dynamic and it is every day. You need to improve. So what worked at one level may not work at the next level. So learning never stops. And don't keep this to yourself. Lone learning doesn't scale your culture or your leadership capacity. Share with everybody else. Keep learning, keep sharing, and you will see the progress happening faster than you think. Now, first things to do right after this session, pick one law that is most relevant to you, write down your leadership shift, and take one action in the next 24 hours. So your lasting value is measured not by your position but by your impact after you're gone. Remember this. And the next things to do is, if you're not a Stardom Circle member yet, become a member and unlock replays and access the full gain course and enjoy over $4,000 worth of benefits. Plus you will also gain access to advanced sessions like this every month for the entire year. And if you are already a Stardom Circle member, if you are watching this replay, schedule a call with one of our highly trained publishing advisors to discuss your book idea. Or if you want to get more clarity and develop your book plan or publishing plan with me directly, go to stardomBooks.com/clarity-session and find out how you can get a spot on my calendar, and we can do a one-on-one Zoom call to discuss your book idea, and I will develop and give you your book publishing strategy and your plan that you can implement anytime in future. All right, see you again in another session next month on Stardom Circle. Until then, keep smiling, believe in yourself, and get all the best things in life.